Welcome to part 2. In part 1, we set up our database and set up the initial connection to the database. Now I'm going to go through the functions.php file and change out any uses of the XML file and use the database instead. So first thing I want to mention is I want to open up store.xml just to remind you. What we have here is we have sort of an array. We have all the items, and inside this items object we have multiple products, and each product has certain characteristics. So if we go back to functions, the first function that we're going to start working on is this one here, getXMLCatalog. And instead of using the simple XML element, we're going to be pulling this data from the database, and we're going to be generating a 2D array of our data. So let's go ahead and get started here. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the getXMLCatalog. I'm going to name it instead getProducts. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and delete this. We don't need this anymore. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to reference the variable that we created right up here. I'm going to do that by calling global MySql I. And I should specify that this has to be global, because if you try to use the MySql I objects within this function without it, it won't recognize that this variable has been already created. It's going to look for a local variable inside this function, and it's not going to find any. So the global MySql I is important, because then PHP understands to look outside of the function and it'll find this object. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to set up the MySql I query, and we're going to do that with result equals MySql I, and inside here we're going to pass in the query. And I'm just going to do a select star from products, since we want to get all the data in the table. Perhaps if you had a large database and you only needed to grab certain columns, you'd want to change this star to the exact columns you need, but this will do for the moment. So the next thing we want to check is if the results from this query, if the number of rows that it returned is over 0, we know we have products in our database. And we're going to do that like so. Otherwise, I'm just going to return false, because there are no products in our database. Now, if we do have products, we want to go ahead and create a 2D array for these products to exist in that we can use elsewhere in this application. So I'm going to start this by setting up a new variable that I'm going to call row num, excuse me. And it's going to start at 0. And next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set up products. So all the products at row num, so the first time this loops through, excuse me, I missed a step up here. So up here we're going to start with a while loop. And while row equals result fetch object, because we want to actually get the results from this query. So we're going to do that. Now inside of that, then we set up this variable. So products at spot 0 and ID, that's going to equal the row ID. And I'm simply going to copy and paste. Actually, I can copy and paste this whole line. And so we want to grab all the data, all 5 columns worth. So ID. Next one is going to be title. and description, image, and finally price. And at the end of this, we want to add one to our row num variable, like so. And then after the loop ends, we want to return our products. Okay. So that should be a good start for this particular function. Basically what we've done here is we've replaced the array that was created when we were accessing the XML file, and we've replaced it with a products array that contains multiple fields, and every time this while loop loops through for each product, it'll be product 0 ID equals that ID. Next time it loops, it'll be products 1 ID equals that product ID, etc. So let's go ahead and see. Let me see if I can demonstrate this to you. Let me create a temporary file here just to make sure we're on the same page. And I'm going to go back to functions. I'm going to grab this entire section, actually without the global, paste that in. And I'm going to paste in my database connection details as well. And of course with an opening PHP tag. Okay, like so. And I believe we should be good to go with this. The only difference is rather than doing return products, I'm going to display it on the page just so you can see what we're dealing with. So I'm going to echo out a pre-tag and a closing pre-tag, and within that there I'm going to echo out products. Actually, not echo, excuse me. I need to do a print R. Like so. So it prints in a readable format for us. So let me save it and let's take a quick preview. Okay, so we'll notice that what we have here is we have a 2D array, and obviously everything's set up for us nicely, and it matches exactly with what we have in the database, which looks like this. So that's the first step here. So the next step is going to be go ahead and change any references to the old getXML catalog. And so I'm going to change that to get products. Okay, so that should be good. And let's go to our templates.php. And the one that I want to change here is this render products from XML. And this is the what displays on the home page. If I go back, I guess I'll have to fix a couple things before I can show you this. So the next step we're going to do is we're going to work on this render products from XML. So in this case, I'm just going to call it render products. We don't need the XML. And in that case, I'm going to open up the XML folder here, open up index, and change this function call, like so. So to get back to this, we're going to do a little bit of modifications to this file. First thing we want to do is we want to get our products using the function that we just created. Okay, so now this products variable will hold the array that's created by this function. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to modify this loop here and replace these variables with ones from within this products object, or products array in this case. So the first thing I want to do is I just want to check if we have anything in our products array. So if it's false, if there are no products in the database, I'm going to copy a couple things. So that, and I'm going to copy this closing. And I'm going to simply display a message to the user. We're going to say there are no products to display. Okay, so that just does a quick check. Now, if there are products to display, we want to go ahead and display them, obviously. So basically, I'm just going to copy this entire section here and place it within the else. Okay, and rather than using the getXMLCatalog function, we're going to use getProducts as product, and then it's just a matter of changing this here. So rather than using this product title, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to add the variable inside. I had a little bit of difficulties because if you'll notice, we want use products, so products title. And what I had issues with is if I left this off like so, I had issues with these single quotes. So what I've done instead is I finished the string, I'm concatenating, I'm adding in this variable in the middle, and then I'm continuing the string. So I'm going to do that for each of these different items. So, and it's going to be products image, and products description, and finally product ID. Okay, so I believe that should be good to go on this particular function, barring any issues. So let me go ahead and save it. Let's go back to Firefox and refresh this page. And we got some issues. So let's start off with line 23. Oh, I know what we're doing wrong. We need to change a couple things here. Actually, I made a mistake in this. You can safely delete this line. Or no, you can't. Let me just do this instead. We want to change this to products as product, and it's going to loop through each of the different products in this array. And instead of using products, we need to use product because it's singular. So let me save it, and now we should be working fine. There we go. So you'll notice we have the connection to the database working, and at least for the moment we have a function within functions.php that gets all of our products. It loads them into a big array, And then within templates, we have a render products function that will display all the products in our database.